the daily life usually was you'd wake up and you'd cook breakfast, or more or less I would cook breakfast because I was always the first person up at 6:30 every morning cooking the breakfasts. The reason nobody else woke up is most of the time people would really, spend a lot of time, because like how it really worked, how the schedule usually worked was you'd wake up in the morning, 7:30, 8-ish. I woke up at 6:30, got cooking the eggs, got the food. So you had to walk over and get your food from a main area. Then I would take the food back and help get it cooking. Not just for me, but other patrols too, because a lot of the people didn't know how to cook and or couldn't cook. So I ended up having to do a lot of that. I had to start running like 10 or 20 eggs at the same time, or even worse, pancakes. But a lot of it was all pre-packaged and pre-cooked bacon, so it wasn't that fun. And then after you got done cooking breakfast, you had to clean up, and then after cleaning up, you got to go do the activities for the day, which is the fun part. And then for lunch, it used to be on here, but you'd get a little thing, and then you'd hand it in, and you'd get this. Yep, he got him. You'd hand him in, and you'd get a lunch for the day, and then you could walk back and just eat it, and then you get back to your activities. Then after you got done, after activities were done, so around 5 o'clock, 6-ish, you'd return to your campsite and continue to cook supper. So I was usually either the first or the last person back on a normal day. I was never in between. So either I would always end up having to clean up everything because my patrol leader never assigned anybody to it, and usually forced whoever showed up last to do it, so I ended up doing it multiple times. He never did it himself. But either that or I would always cook. So, and it usually supper, breakfast, very basic things, but they also tried to put some themes into it. So like one day it was like Southwestern day, another day was the Midwestern food, and then they even had cultures I think they tried to do European and African and Asian, and they just tried to mix it up a little, but it usually just came out as usually bacon, beans, and a soup. So, and that was a pretty typical day. But then after eating supper is when patch trading got really big, because after you got done eating supper, everyone would leave. I would usually try and call people, like my parents, because like I said, it's right back here on the back of the map actually, and in my book, they were the major sponsors was AT&T. So yeah, we got 5 bars. I guarantee you we had 5 bars at all time at that camp. They erected a brand new tower, which the commander of the camp is keeping. So they also had charging areas, and that's where I actually got to meet most of the people from other states, was from areas, or while charging my phone. I have pictures on my cell phone. I'll give them to I can give them to Aaron, who will be posting them on the site later. And so what we do is there was a couple areas you could charge. Out in front of the dining hall, there was an area you could charge, and there'd be 30 kids, and then they plug power cords into power cords. So you get about 20 power cords stuck together and about 50 people on them, and I kid you not, it was about that many people. Because the thing is I always call them electronic hogs, you know how you have to plug your cell phone in? Yeah. Yeah. So I usually would run over to the shower area. There was this trailer shower, and off the side came this they just stuck it there. It wasn't actually flipping out of the side. It was just this little shower area, and there was a little electronic thing. So I spent most of my time charging my phone there, except for one day these people from Florida showed up and tried to tell me I couldn't, but I just did it anyways. So, oh yeah. So it was fun times, and I did get to call home all the time. I mean, a lot of people had their cell phones and were able to text and stuff, which I found was kind of strange. Like I said, I spent most of my time at the action areas. I did get to go to shotgun. That was extremely interesting too. But and the biggest part of the trip, honestly, if you ever get to go on it, some of you here are young enough that you will ever get to go on it. 2 things. Bring a lot of patches and take the extended tour. The best time people had was on the extended tour, because before you go, getting to go around in a scout uniform with 40,000, okay, let's put this in perspective. About 44,000 other boys. That's about the size of the Normandy landing, one of the largest operations in military or U.S. military history, all in one area, like Times Square. So imagine going to the mall, so the National Capital area, the little park in front of it, and there being seas of Boy Scouts, just nothing but Boy Scouts, going to Times Square and having nothing but Boy Scouts. It's one of the few times you'll never feel awkward wearing a Boy Scout uniform in public. So, but it was really fun getting to go to all the museums again. I've been there a couple of times, so I got to go mess around at the Botanical Gardens. They dropped us off at the Air Museum, and I walked up and it was quite interesting getting to go around. And it's definitely a strange feeling when people actually approach you and start giving you stories in the airport. I know a lot of people, even the pilot came by and was talking to us about his days in scouting and how he went. And every time, if you meet anybody who's ever been to a Jamboree, they will tell you the Jamboree they went to. And if you're going to one, they'll just tell you everything about it and how great a Jamboree is. I kid you not, every airline pilot who'd ever been one, every salesman of clothing who'd ever been one, and anyone and everyone who's ever been to a Jamboree will tell you about one on the way there. So, I think I'll hand it off to Scott now because I'm running out of things to do.
Oh, you hit everything I was going to talk about.
Oh yeah, and afterwards, because I love our troop, and may I mention that Northern Lights probably had some of the nicest stuff there compared to other people. Some people slept in the staff slept in military tents, so the permanent iron-sided tents. We slept in kind of nicer tents, and we also you had to bring all of your own stuff to cook, clean, and have your own things. So our stuff was kind of nicer and new. So I want to thank Northern Lights Council for that. And also, they really had to work around a lot of stuff. So originally, I was supposed to leave the morning of from Fargo Airport at 5:30. The plane was full. We had to reschedule for Grand Forks and then send half of our guys over to Minneapolis. So I ended up driving with my dad, who just showed up the day before from Kosovo, up to Grand Forks with him, and then getting on a plane at Grand Forks International Airport, then going to Minneapolis because Chicago apparently was also underwater, and then we flew all the way up to New York LaGuardia, so the national airport there. Then we got out of LaGuardia and we had to spend a bunch of time there. So I got to go to Times Square with about 10,000 other Boy Scouts, and I got to go to a thrift store. I saw a half-nude cowboy, and there was a music video being filmed down the street as we were standing there. It was definitely an interesting experience, and I proved it. Nobody believes me, but there's a recruiting booth there, and I stood in front of it and got my picture taken at Times Square in front of, I can't remember the name of the statue, and then on the other side there was another place you can get a good picture. Definitely a very, very interesting experience. Then we got on a bus and we drove over the night into, through Maryland to Bethesda, which we spent the night there. The only reason you'll ever go to Bethesda is if you're either spending the night in DC or you plan to live there, which there's nothing there, it's a bunch of hotels. So I spent the night in Bethesda, and we drove down into DC the next day, and we got, well actually the same day, because we got there at 3 in the morning, slept till about 6, woke up, ate breakfast, got in a bus, drove through DC, did our tour, got back at 10, stayed up till about 11 again watching Family Guy in the room because every scout wants to watch Family Guy. So we got out of there, and then we went on another tour for a day, and then we had to go to the Jamboree. So we went to a few of the monuments, rushed out of DC, went to Fort A.P. Hill, and got there. And that's when we got there. There wasn't anything in the campsite. We had to set up everything. So we had an area squared off by rope. There was 2 areas, one for 1430 and one for 1431, which is my troop, and then way over in another corner, surrounded by Chicagoans, was the 1429ers. They were they were mostly from Minot. And the major people who went weren't Fargo or Bismarck or Minot. No, it was Beulah, Fergus Falls, and then Williston, I think, was the next biggest. And then followed by Grand Forks, and Fargo had the smallest amount of people there.